I think we finished פרק י"א, right? Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Well, then you're gonna have to go to New York.
So we can go to the next one. Because my mistake, the last time we titled פרק י"א as פרק י"ב, so this time I titled פרק י"ב and I wrote כבשת הרש, which is the main topic of this פרק, to minimize the confusion. From last time, please. You have and here. The last time we tried to scratch a little bit under the surface of the story of David, and one thing that came quite clear was that with all the grave sin of David, we see one important point. David take responsibility, at least for Bathsheba, although he could just ignore her or to deny the whole thing. From the very beginning, he makes sure that she's not going to be victimized twice. Today we are going to see a little bit more in this direction, because the big question that we are going to deal with is how come that such a grave sin basically did not cause the same punishment that Shaul had. Shaul lost the menucha for sin that seems to be much smaller. This is a serious issue, Eshet Ish. So this is going to be in the background of our discussion today. What I want you to do now is to see the psukim Aleph ad Dalet, just read them, very famous ones, because now Natan is sent to David by Hashem in order to tell him what are the consequences of what happened. So let's read the psukim first. וישלח השם את נתן אל דוד ויבוא אליו ויאמר לו, שני אנשים היו בעיר אחת. He tells him a story. אחד עשיר ואחד רש. One rich and one is poor. לעשיר היה צאן ובקר הרבה מאוד. He was wealthy. He had everything he needed. ולרש אין כל, nothing. כי אם כבשה אחת קטנה אשר קנה, like the חד גדיה, you know, the little kid that he had, ויחיה ותגדל עמו ועם בניו יחדיו, she became like a pet and she became part of the family. מפיתו תאכל, מכוסות תשתה, she eats with him, she drink with him, בחיקו תשכב, they share even the same room, the same place, the same bed, ותהי לו כבת. ויבוא הלך לאיש העשיר. Someone came to visit the wealthy person, ויחמול לקחת מצונו ומבקעו. He did not want to spend his own money, לאורח הבא לו, ויקח את כבשת האיש הרש. So what is he doing? He takes the sheep from the poor person, ויעשה על האיש הבא אליו. And this way, he welcomed the guest and did not have to spend any money on it. in our mashal before we are going to the reaction of David. So, few things are clear. Who is the kipsa? Who is the sheep? Batsheva, obviously, yeah. The poor is. By the way, the difference between the mashal and the nimshal are quite clear, because here he did not take Batsheva; he sent their husband to be killed, right? So it's not exactly the same. And the rich person is David HaMelech, right? And the story is about the wealthy person, David, who is taking the kivsa tarash, the sheep of the poor person. So the Radak already said that the details are not exactly the same as the reality. For example, the kivsa in this case is actually not so much Batsheva as much as actually he shecht eventually her husband. But the Radak said that he could not reveal too much in this mashal, in this story, because then David will understand that it's about him. So he had to change few even essential details, so David is not going to think that he talks about him. And goal was achieved perfect. Because the next pasuk is telling us, Vayichar af David ba'ish meod. David hears the story, and he says to Natan Hanavi, Chai Hashem. He swear in the name of God. Ki ben mavet ha'ish ha'oseh zot. A person like this, who dare to take the only property of the ish rash of this poor person, is ben mavet. And on top of it, ve'et ha'kivsa yeshalem 4 times, and he should pay 4 times for the stolen sheep. עקב אשר עשה את הדבר הזה, ועל אשר לא חמל. For doing something like this, and not to have a little bit mercy on the owner of this sheep, for this, 2 things. He should be killed and should pay 4 times. So first of all, let's analyze what he says. There is something very simple here. Why he has to pay 4 times? Why he has to pay 4 times? Right, because the Torah itself says that if a person takes a sheep from his friend, he stole a sheep from his friend, and he shecht it, or sell it, in our case he shecht it, he has to pay 4 times. This is a simple part. Where does it say that he is ben mavet? Where do we find that a person who stole a sheep from his friend should be killed for it? Yes, it's a very dirty story, very unpleasant story, but the Torah never said that he should be killed. So where David comes with this idea, ben mavet and see how it goes. First of all, he said he's ben mavet, and second of all, he should pay, which is what the Torah says. Where David took this halacha from, that he has to be killed? A second question that I want to ask you, okay, Natan comes to David HaMelech and tells him a story. Now, what David has to think about, like a person who come and tell him a story? Like David HaMelech was not asked for storytelling. Natan came to him with a case. Basically, Natan said, listen, I have a case to you, I want you to decide upon it. Right? So, on what ground? What was like the background? Like Natan comes to David and tell him a story, and then David said he should be killed and should pay for. Shouldn't he like think like why he comes to me? Like what does he tell me here? Simple question.
He has a guilty conscience.
I'm sorry?
He has a guilty conscience.
Yeah, with this we will deal a little bit later. But בכלל, באופן כללי, like, he just was mistaken. Like, no person should be killed for something like this. And indeed, to the point that the Metzudah David said, David just wanted to show how angry he is, and therefore he said, Ben Mavet Ha'ish Hazeh. He knew that he's not going to kill him, but he wanted to show how terrible is a case like this, and he said, a person like this actually should die, and he's lucky that the Torah gave him just to pay 4 times. So that's how he explained it. You get the, like,
Yes.
he basically did not mean that he should be killed. He just said, actually, paying in this case 4 times is a good way to get off the hook, because basically he should die for something like this. But he never meant that he will die. I just want to draw your attention that this technique appears 3 times in the Tanakh. Telling stories to kings in order to make them thinking about the story, making a decision, and then to turn it against them. So where do we find these stories? We are going to find one in few Prakim. The son of David, David failed twice to the same trick. When Avshalom is killing Amnon, later in few Prakim we are going to learn about it. Avshalom was supposed to be killed by David HaMelech. And then Yoav found a trick. He sent to David a woman. It was not Natan HaNavi, this time it was a woman, and she telling him the following story. I have 2 children. One of them killed his brother, and now my family or the siblings want the brother that killed the other one. They want to kill him, Geulat Dam, to redeem the blood, and now I'm going to lose 2 children. What should I do? So David said, I will take care of it. I will make sure that nothing will happen to your son. So story about 2 brothers, one tried to kill the other one, and now there is a danger that the second, the killer, also is going to be killed. So David said, it's not happening. I'm going to take care. I will not allow a situation like this that you are going to lose 2 children and one is enough. So now she comes to him and says, I'm talking about you. You have 2 brothers. You have 2 sons. One killed the other one. Avshalom killed Amnon. Maybe his reasons were wrong, but now if you are going to kill Avshalom, you are going to lose 2 children instead of 1. So this is the second time that David is actually hearing a story, making a decision, and then the decision is against him. Another one, very interesting story, is about Achav in Sefer Melachim. In Sefer Melachim, Achav is going to a war against Ben-Hadad, the king of Aram. He managed to capture him, and instead of killing him, he somehow released him with a peace treaty. The Navi was very upset about it, because he was supposed to kill him. The enemy of Am Yisrael. He released him with a very weak peace treaty. It was only a question of time until he will do it again. So he goes to Achav and tell him the following story. By the way, he made the whole scenery. What happened? He knew where King Achav is going, and he stood there disguising himself to a person who is very, very poor, with Efer al Rosho, and he tells him the following story. Listen, my king, that's what happened. A person came and gave me someone to keep, a criminal. And he told me that if I'm going to let him go, he's going to kill me. And I said, okay, if you give me kikar kesef, if you give me the right sum of money, I'm going to guard him, I'm going to keep him. And as I turn here and here, he disappeared. So Achav said, so you should be killed. That was the deal. And since this was the deal and you did not stand your side, your end of the deal, you should be killed. So now Isha Elokim took off his costume and said, really? So you should be killed too. Because you had the Ben Hadad in your hand and you let him go. So the same as you say about me that I should be killed, I'm telling you what Hashem told you. You should be killed. So it's three stories about a fiction, a story that never happened, told to the king, and it's like using the technique that the king is going actually to dictate his own fate. Very interesting technique. But why? What is the purpose of this? So here we have to understand a very important principle in the Torah regarding the kings. A king has a permission to do things beyond the Torah. The Rambam says that one of the privileges that the king has is bypassing the entire judicial system. Normally, when Beit Din has to decide upon a certain case, they need eidim, witnesses. They have to go through a very long process of drisha b'chakira, questioning the eidim, questioning the litigants. It's a long, long process. And as I said a few times, we don't have a clear evidence that, for example, in the time of Beit Sheni, the Sanhedrin ever killed a person. And I'll tell you why. Because basically the death penalty in the Jewish law has to meet so many criteria that it's impossible to execute a person. That's a reality. So why the Torah gave a death penalty? To tell you how serious it is. But to take the life of a person requires so much responsibility that the Torah made it almost impossible to kill a person. And therefore, we don't find like a clear story about someone who was executed, for example, in the 400 years of Beit Sheni. Yes, there was Sanhedrin and there is a whole Masechet in the Talmud about when you kill, how you kill, what should be how the gallows look like, every detail. But in reality, no one apparently was killed. It was impossible. One exception, the king. The king had permission in order to make sure that the community, that the nation behave properly, to bypass the whole system. Because sometimes if things are going wrong and you wait too much, and you are going through the procedures and the due diligence, the situation gets so bad that there is no point anymore in judicial system. So the Torah gave the king a power to do what he find necessary to do. It's very dangerous on one hand, but at the same time, it's the only tool that the Torah gave the king to make sure that everything is going fine. And we know the judicial system, in Hebrew there is mishpat, tachanot hatzedek tochanot leat. The mills of justice are grinding slow, something like this. Today one of the big problems of Tzahal, it's unbelievable. Today that every unit in Tzahal has lawyers with them. which makes things very, very complicated. I'm not saying, people should just do whatever they want, but it makes things very, very hard to react. You fear to shoot, not to shoot. It's like you are not sure if it's the right age, not the right age, if it's dangerous enough or not dangerous enough. It takes away from your ability to react immediately. And there is a danger in a situation like this, and therefore the Torah gave insurance to the king, you can do whatever you think. Melech poretz gader. When Natan came to David, he wanted him to decide upon this case as a king. Not as a judge. Natan could go to the court in Yerushalayim and to ask them what should happen to a person with this kivsat arash. No! He wanted David as a king to decide upon it. And David fell into this trap. He said, as a king, I will kill a person like this. Because this is so cruel. A person like this possesses such a danger to the entire community, this kind of values, I would kill him. And then Natan is telling him, you're right. But you know who is this person? It's you. ויאמר נתן אל דוד, אתה האיש, you are the man. כה אמר השם אלוקי ישראל, אנוכי משחתיך למלך על ישראל. I made you the king. ואנוכי הצלתיך מיד שאול. Why is it important that Hashem saved him from the hand of Shaul? What it has to do with this story? You as the king had to know, more than anyone else, that Shaul lost his kingdom and Hashem chose you because he sins. It's about morality that he lost his position. And you don't understand it? That everything has to do with the morality of the king? מדוע בעזית את דבר השם, ויתנה לך את בית אדונך. I gave you everyone. ואת נשי אדונך בחיקך. I gave even the daughter of Shaul, that's how the Radak explained, I gave the daughter of Shaul to you. ויתנה לך את בית ישראל ויהודה, and I appointed you upon בית ישראל and יהודה. ואם מעט, if you don't have enough women, enough wives, והוסיפה לך כהנה וכהנה. The king is allowed to marry 18 wives. כהנה וכהנה. It says, I can't remember exactly the source, that from the Torah we learn that a king can marry 6 wives, and kahena v'chahena means another 6 and another 6. So you could marry many other women. But you choose Kivsat Arash, you choose Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah. מדוע בזית את דבר השם לעשות הרע בעיניי? Why did you do so? The bad things in my eyes. את אוריה החיתי הכית בחרב, so basically you killed him, ואת אשתו לקחת לך לאישה. It's לא תרצח and לא תינף. ואותו הרגת בחרב בני עמון. It's amazing to see now the punishment that he's going to go through. We are going to see it in a second, but I have a very fundamental question here. Why Natan had to go through the story? Natan had to knock on the door of David HaMelech and to say, my king, you killed a person, an innocent person, number one. You took his wife, who was Eshet Ish, and therefore you are going to get a terrible punishment. Why is this story? Why there was a need for a story? He is a Navi, he's sent by Hashem. Hashem told him, you have to rebuke David and to tell him that I'm going to punish him. Why should he do it in a method of story, which is a beautiful story, but why?
If he just came to him and said that David has the power to kill him. Like this, he wanted him to get to the conclusion himself, to understand this is the terrible thing I did, and I ought to be punished for
So
it.
this is very interesting that you say that. Indeed, some of the Mefarshim say exactly that. Many kings, they kill the messenger. You come and tell them that they are wrong. A king is never wrong. You say that I'm wrong, I'll kill you. I will kill you. When Jonathan, the son of Shaul, told him about David, something that angered him, he tried to kill him. So indeed, Nathan was afraid from the reaction of David. And therefore he had to tell him a whole story that made him a little bit unaware to where he tried to get. That's a very good explanation.
Maybe also it was an attempt to get David to do cheshbon hanefesh, to do tshuva. In other words, let him reach that conclusion through this technique of...
Right. This is a very preferable method of teachers. They don't want to give you the answer. They want you to think and come out with the answer. The old Socratic way of teaching is based on this idea. Instead of me telling you, I want you to come to this conclusion. And then it's like not the teacher told you, you yourself understood it, which is a very powerful way to educate a person. When you give the ability to the student to teach himself, then this is the greatest teaching. Because he got it in his way, in his... because everyone learns a lesson slightly different. So when the teacher says something, two students might get it differently, but when the student himself comes to the conclusion, it's much more powerful because he gets it the way that convince him and make it very clear to him. That's a very good point. However, I might add that when you have to come with the stories with mashal, is when sometimes something is not explicitly understood. When do we use the idea of mashal, of a story that is basically parallel to a real case in life? When you cannot explain the case in a clear way. So the mashal helps you to relate, in education you call it, to a previous knowledge, to something that you do know, that you do understand, and then you can apply the principles of what you already know to a new area of information. That's the purpose of mashal, to take something that you are comfortable and bring you to out of the regular zone of what you know to a new case that you will apply the previous principles to the new ones. Which give us the idea that David HaMelech was not so convinced that he is guilty. I think that this gave many of Chazal the idea that David himself, for some reason, maybe we will explore it later, did not know that what he did was so bad. And Nathan had to find a way to show him that according to his morals, he is wrong. Otherwise, David HaMelech took Bathsheba to his house, and he thought, for some reason, that the whole case is behind him. So Nathan comes and says, you're a moral person, right? He tells him the story of Kivsat Arash and say, don't you see that it's the same? Don't you see that? How can you ignore it? How can you deny what happened and to put it behind you? And as I said, we find in Chazal all kind of expression, Kol ha'omer David chata ino el hatoeh. He had a mistake. Well, it's very nice that Chazal tried to protect and to clear the name of David. But we are going to see that David HaMelech in the next pasuk said, Chatati LaHashem. It was a chet. However, I think what Chazal tried to say is that if Natan had to come and tell him a whole story, David himself was not aware that he made a terrible thing. It might be, as the Rambam suggests, that Uriah Hitti came from Bnei Chet and he was not Jewish and therefore his wife was not married. It might be, as we suggested the last time, that everyone who went to wars in the house of David gave a get to his wife in case that he will not return and she will not be aguna. There might be many explanations. But clearly, he could not come to David and say, you took Eshet Ish, you killed the person. David HaMelech would deny it. And therefore he come with something quite, actually, that minimize the sin. The story of Kivsat Arash is very emotional. But this is like a little item in the bigger story. It's a small thing. Kivsat Arash, we say, this is so like, it reminds us all these people, the wealthy people who bully the poor person and we feel anger. It's true, but in the story itself, the main issue is, it's not yours, you stole it from another person, this is a big issue. And the big issue here is Eshet Ish and Retzicha. Why do you say Kivsat Arash? The Kivsat Arash is really bad, but you know what? It's not like, unfortunately in the world, that's how the world is going. You have the money, you have the power, you abuse people who are weaker than you. This is happening every day, everywhere, unfortunately. So this is a rebuke? Kivsat Arash is a problem? Or the major issue of Retzicha and Niuf, Eshet Ish? I think that this is the source to many opinions in Chazal that indeed it was not what we think. He could not come and say Neifa and Retzach. For this, David could come with all kinds of excuses. But for the lack of morality, this cruelty, a person, one of your officers, going to the army, risk his life, and you take his wife, for this there is no excuse. And who said that? David HaMelech himself. Because according to his real values, this was exactly the story here. He took Kivsat Arash, and he understood, according to his moralities, that Ben Mavet, this person should be killed and should pay 4 times.
It's a
Yes.
Kal v'chomer.
But again, you don't need to go to Kal v'chomer if something is obvious in the face of someone. And that's why I feel strongly that the story of Kivsat Arash, beyond the cruelty of David, shows us that David did not know that he do something so serious. He had a way to live in peace with his guilt. Maybe he felt uncomfortable, maybe he felt that things went out of hand. Yes, but it was not what we know today, or the way we think about David and his sin. David HaMelech did not see it the same way. And there was a need to come with something very sophisticated in order to tell him you are guilty. He did not understand it without Natan. So we have all the information at hand, but we are not in the sin itself. We are not next to David to hear what he has to say. And therefore, this perek, to me, is a strong evidence that David HaMelech was not aware, for some reasons, which I don't know what. That's why Chazal come and try to fill up the gaps, that it was not what we think he did. Because otherwise you don't need anything. If a person kills someone, you take him to Beit Din and you say, you are a rotzech, you are a murderer. If you take the isha of someone, you take him to the Beit Din and say, this is new, you are chayav mita. And we are going to see that yes, there was a punishment. But at the end of the day, Bathsheba was the wife of David. Bathsheba was the mother of Shlomo, the one who continued the morasha of David. So it's something here is very wrong in a way. Which again, I cannot give you the whole story, but clearly it tells me one thing. That in the eyes of David, it was not Retzach, and it was not Ni'uf. What was it? I'm sorry that I cannot give you a clear answer. We tried last week. In the week between, I read, and I would highly recommend. Unfortunately, I could not find any translation to English, but I think it became quite a classic. I hope it became a classic. There is a Ma'amar of Rabbi Meidan that appeared already 20 years ago. I never knew about it. You see, it's good sometimes that I teach, because then I learn about new things. And when I read about it over the internet, I saw that it became a classic. And he called it Megillat Bathsheba. He called this Ma'amar Megillat Bathsheba. It's in a way of PDF. And it's a magnificent work. Magnificent work, beautiful. Bechlal, my suggestion is to read every piece that comes from Rabbi Meidan. I would highly recommend to read. This is, he's intelligent person. He's the Rosh Yeshiva of the Gush today. And it's just a delight to read. You don't have to agree, because sometimes it's really so like innovative and you have difficulty to agree with him, but it's a delight, intellectual delight, because the way he learned, the way he asks the questions and put them is amazing. And indeed, he goes through every word and everything that happened in this story and try to analyze it. And his main conclusion is that it's not what we think. The way the world take, and it does not try at all to protect or to clear the name of David. No, he's not coming from this side, of Lakewood, that David HaMelech was a tzaddik gamur and everything was l'shem shamayim. No, not at all. But at the same time, he tried to fight the secular approach, that David HaMelech was just like, a sinner who one time, or maybe more, could not stand his Yetzer Hara. This is a very primitive reading too, and one of the proofs, he does not bring it, but the way, after I read it, I became convinced that the Tanakh left us many hints that it's not exactly what we understand. It's not exactly.
Rabbi?
Yes.
First
of all, it's very nice to see you, and welcome back.
Thank you
Yes.
very much. And now I can show with my other arm. Bathsheba, was she completely innocent in all this?
We discussed it 2 weeks ago. Not so much, apparently. She knew what's going on. She knew what's going on. I would say that she was happy with the development. in a way, yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But again, we have to be very careful not to victimize the victim twice. She was a victim. You ask about her innocence, not completely, okay? But the villain was not her in this case. It was David, if we can say that. Yeah. So here comes the onish, the punishment. כה אמר השם, הנני מקים עליך רעה מביתך. First of all, your punishment is coming from your own house. This house, that was the place where the sin happened, this house is going to turn against you. ולקחתי את נשיך לעיניך, ונתתי לרעך, ושכב עם נשיך לעיני השמש הזאת. Many of the Mefarshim explain it about Avshalom, his son, and it says that he took the Pilagshei HaMelech, which were not exactly the wives of David, but they were half-wives. This is a Pilegesh that we don't have today, but it was Pilegesh, come from the word Palag, Isha. Pilegesh, Plag, which is in Aramaic is half, but also in Ivrit Miflaga is Chelek, Miflaga. Plag, Isha. It's half Isha. What does that mean? She's a wife, but with not all the privileges of wife.
Mistress.
It's we don't have it today. What?
A mistress.
Mistress.
Concubine.
Concubine.
Concubine. It's a secular translation, but according in halacha, and I don't suggest any new ideas. You know, we have our own source enough. But in halacha there was a case of pilegesh which was isha belo ktuba. Isha belo ktuba means yes, she was designated to one person, so no one else could marry her, but she was not fully wife. I do believe, actually, that it came to avoid the existence of mistresses. Namely, once she was in the court of normally a wealthy person, so in order not to get to the low life that sometimes between butlers and slaves exist, she was like the wife of the master, so no one messed up with her. But at the same time, he did not really want to marry her. So she did not have the regular rights that a regular wife had. For example, Ketubah, or when he died, for example, she got nothing, because this was one of the big problems. Because basically, according to the laws of Yerusha, he has to leave a certain amount of money to the Isha. And in order to avoid this one, she was only Chatzi Isha. She was designated to him, so no one else could marry her or to mess up with her. And at the same time, she was not a real Isha, enjoying all the benefits which are kept to a regular one. And indeed, it said that Avshalom took this Pilagshei HaMelech, which was not exactly Eshet Ish, but it showed clearly the one who took the wife of the king, he was the new king. This was one of the ways to show the power of a king. And if you remember, Adoniah, another brother in this dysfunctional family of David, after he died, why he lost his wife? His life, not his wife. why he lost his life? The moment he said to Shlomo, just give me the pilagshim of my father, of David, Shlomo killed him right away. Because having the wives, even the pilagshim of the previous king, means I am the new king. So Shlomo saw it as a try, the last try of Adoniah to take over the kingdom, and he killed him immediately, upon just saying that. So this was punishment number one. And he said, כי אתה עשית בסתר, ואני אעשה את הדבר הזה נגד כל ישראל ונגד השמש. A person can try to do things behind closed doors, but Hashem see it, and Hashem is going to publicize it in front of everyone. So everyone is going to see the punishment I'm going to give you. As it happened that David, his son Avshalom, rebelled against him in front of everyone. But see the reaction of David. ויאמר דוד אל נתן, חטאתי להשם. חטאתי להשם. He does not try to excuse himself. He does not try, how dare you? And it happened before. When a Navi came to Yerovam ben Nevat and told him that he sinned, Yerovam sent people to kill the messenger. What Shaul did, remember? When Shmuel came and told him, how could you bring the korban before I arrived? How could you leave the cattle of Agag, of Amalek, alive when I told you to kill everyone? What did he say? He did not say, Chatati Hashem like David. Listen, I got the pressure from the nation, everyone was waiting for you, you did not show up, so I had to do it. He tells you you did not do what the Navi told you. Instead of saying, it was very wrong. I just realized how bad I behaved. He started to excuse himself. And this little difference between Shaul and David, according to Chazal, explained that although the sin of David was much greater than Shaul, he did not lose the position of a king and the person who established Malchut Beit David. Sometimes it's not about the quantity of the Aveira, it's the quality of the person. In order to be a king, the most important thing is to be honest with yourself and taking responsibility. Where do we find it the first time? In our last week's Parsha. Yehuda, the first from this Shevet of David HaMelech, he easily could get rid from the whole story with Tamar. It's embarrassing. He went to a prostitute, but it was about to be concealed forever. Otziuha v'tisaref. She was on her way to the burning spot, to be burned alive. And once she said, Hakerna, lemi, achotemet ve'aptilim, what did he say immediately? Tzadka mimeni. I'm wrong, she's right. This is a quality of a king, a real king, who take responsibility for his deed. Because yes, kings, even David HaMelech or Yehuda, can make terrible mistakes. The question is, what are we doing with our mistakes? Do we try to hide them, to fool other people because we made a mistake, or we take responsibility? That make a great person a great person. Not the fact that a great person never made a mistake. A great person make a mistake, take responsibility, and try to fix it. And the story about Yehuda and about David are very similar in this regard. David does not try to fool around to say, no, you don't understand, he gave her a get. The moment he understood that he made a mistake, Chatati Lashem. And indeed, it was recognized by the Navi himself. Immediately he said to him, Vayomer Natan el David, Gam Hashem העביר חטאתך לא תמות. You were supposed to die. Who said that? You yourself. But since you accepted responsibility, and you recognize that you made a grave sin, you are not going to die, as you deserve. You yourself say that. But the way you deal with it saved you from death. Many punishments, but not death. An immediate punishment, terrible one. אפס כי נאץ ניאצת את אויבי השם בדבר הזה. גם הבן הילוד לך מות ימות. It's kind of ניאץ ניאצת, you made something, you greatly blasphemed. את אויבי השם בדבר הזה. You gave them weapons. The people, the enemies of God. You see how David behaved. There will be an immediate consequence. גם הבן הילוד לך מות ימות. So this was the fourth punishment that David is going to get.
Why should the child suffer?
Exactly.
I mean,
Oh, he's-
how does that make it right?
Doesn't.
You ask because the Torah itself said לא יומתו אבות על בנים ובנים לא יומתו על אבות. There is a separation between the sins of the fathers and the punishments of the
son's punishment of the father, the sins of the father and of the punishment of the kids.
It doesn't make sense.
This requires long time, and I'll tell you why long time. The answer, as I know it, is not going to please the palate of the modern reader and the modern person. The Tanakh had a very different view upon, again, according to what I know, upon the responsibility of parents and their very little children. They see them almost as their property. You see, it needs to be elaborated, but it's different from the values that we have today, that we wouldn't even think for a second that if a father did something very wrong, then you should punish the child. The hashkafa of the Tanakh, I would just give a mashal in this situation to ease the understanding of it. What happened to a woman who is a drug addict and she's pregnant? Her child will be a drug addict. It's going through her blood. And in a way, the little children are still considered to be part of their parents, bearing the consequences of their parents until a certain age. I would say until the moment they develop their own intellectual capabilities. So again, it's a very long to prove it from many places in the Tanakh. And as I said, it's not, for us, it's such a foreign concept that it will be unfair to give you an answer and to go home. So let's keep it. Maybe we'll have another opportunity, maybe at the end of this parak, to see a little bit more about it. Because we are going to see what was the reaction of David to the whole story that is coming up, which is very interesting and very unusual. Okay, so what happened? וילך נתן אל ביתו, ויגוף השם את הילד. Immediately upon leaving the house, apparently someone ran to David and tell him that the son, the fruit of this forbidden love of Bathsheba is about to die, or was plagued, which obviously came to David as like he was not too surprised. Just Natan told him about it. ויגוף השם את הילד אשר ילדה אשת אוריה לדוד ויענש. So it contained the whole scene. Eshet Uriah. She was not Eshet Uriah anymore, because remember, at the end of Perek Yud Aleph, she was brought to the house of David. But still, this happened because she was at one time Eshet Uriah. ויבקש דוד את האלוהים בעד הנער. ויצום דוד צום. He fast. הוא בא ולן ושכב ארצה. He was sleeping on the floor. He tortured himself in order to raise the mercy of Hashem on this child. I want to ask you a question. Do you think that David wanted the child to be alive? I ask a very hard question.
Probably not, because he realized it would be succession.
But what about this child? Think about it like the little child that is going to the shul every time, and everyone, this is a mamzer. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
be a
you see this
reminder
little
all the
guy?
time to him.
It's terrible to say, but the best interest of David would be that the child will die. He cannot return what happened, but he's going to be a king for a few more, maybe a decade or two. The best interest, and to get rid of his guilt, the best thing is not to see the child anymore. It's a shame. And the greatness of David is again that he takes responsibility. Although he could say, actually, this is a good news. We will have another child or whatever it is, but this child is just going to be a disaster because now every time that this child is going to be around, I'm going to remember what he did and how he came to this world. The people around are going to talk about it. This is going to be like a PR disaster, like running, like a 3 years old, which is a completely PR disaster. But David does not think this way. He does not think about PR. He does what he feels he was wrong. He tried to save the life of the child. ויקומו זקני ביתו עליו להקימו מן הארץ ולא אבא, he did not want, he decided to dedicate every moment just to daven to save this boy. ולא ברא איתם לחם, he did not want to eat anything. Let's stop here because the next part of the story, the boy died, and we are going to learn the reaction of David to what happened later and the strange dialogue between David and his slaves. So let's stop it at this point. I want to wish everyone Chanukah Sameach. It's not the happiest chapter we could learn on Chanukah. Okay. But we don't choose the prakim of the Tanakh. So let's stop. Let's stop when the child is still alive. That's the minimum we can do. Chag Urim Sameach. Absolutely, yes. Okay.